Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NDEAM 2022, the celebration of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And I'm Carl Braun, Operations Manager for Business Services for Workforce Solutions World Capital Area. We serve the 9 counties that surround Travis County or Austin, Texas each year. And we recognize the month of October where we attempt to assist business customers, employees, and job seekers with disabilities by holding 4 seminars, one each week. So we've got some great topics coming up, and one of them is this week. We have the pleasure of introducing Giovanne Turincio. She is with the Texas Vocational Rehabilitation Commission. You know what? Employee retention has never been more important than it is today. And it is expensive to hire and train new talent, but you lose so much experience and goodwill when a valued employee leaves. And disabled employees are among the most loyal, and yet they can also be taken for granted. And so in this session, chat is disabled, but you can ask questions using the Q&A feature. Giovanne is going to address several of these issues today, and allow me to introduce her, please. Giovanne is, let me get this, so I can read it properly, is a certified rehabilitation counselor. She's got 17 years of work experience with vocational rehabilitation. Giovanne has worked for the state of Texas over 30 years, beginning with the Job Training Partnership Act, otherwise known as JTPA, unemployment insurance, food stamps, Medicaid, and TANF, before she was hired by vocational rehab to manage a mental health caseload for the last 10 years. The Lord's work there, Giovanne. She worked at the Central Texas Regional Office as a program specialist, and she currently is the Community Outreach and Awareness Specialist in that same agency. Giovanne's primary goal is to bring awareness of VR services to the community. Giovanne, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Carl, and thank you for all of you that are joining us today. Vocational rehabilitation serves lots of individuals, but a lot of people think that you have to be unemployed to receive our services. And so today I'm going to be talking about job retention and the importance that we can play in job retention. So again, all my research is from Google and good cited sources, and I can provide those later for you. But so how much does it cost to train an employee? Well, according to the Association for Talent Development, organizations spend an average of $1,252 a year per employee on training and development initiatives. The formula for calculating the training costs per employee is very simple. You just divide the training budget by the number of employees that you have to train. Training costs include the actual material created or utilized for training and time spent in each training module or conference. This is calculated into the total because every moment an employee spends in training is time away from their job. So what's the meaning of cost of training? Cost of training includes amount of costs of instruction materials, equipment, rental of class space, marketing, and overhead. What's the average cost to hire a new employee? So the average cost of hiring an employee is around $4,000 according to Glassdoor. However, various factors could impact that number, such as the size and location of your business, the role that you're hiring for, and the industry in which you operate. So why is it so expensive for companies to replace workers? Well, there's side effects of turnover, such as decreased productivity, knowledge loss, and lowered morale. All of these can incur incidental costs as well. Employee turnover is so expensive because organizations pay direct exit costs when an employee leaves and incur additional costs to recruit and train new hires. So does it cost more to hire a new employee or to keep and train an existing employee? So based on the figures that I just gave, we take all of that into consideration, and it becomes apparent that it's typically much more cost-effective to train and retain your current talent than it is to replace an employee. While it may take time to develop your workforce, the return on your investment into training will likely show better for long-term results. So why is it better to train existing employees than to hire new ones? Well, there's long-term value of offering training programs to employees. You increase employee retention. Employees who work for an organization that doesn't offer opportunities for growth within a career path are more often more likely to search for a job elsewhere. Consider what the following could cost: writing and posting a job description, interviewing candidates, paying referral bonuses, having employees take on more work while a position is open, training new hires, and these are just to name a few. So employee turnover is so expensive because organizations pay direct exit costs when an employee leaves, and they also incur additional costs to recruit and train new hires. Direct exit costs can include payouts for accrued vacation time, unused sick time, contributions to healthcare coverage, higher unemployment taxes, and severance pay. Side effects of turnover, such as decreased productivity, knowledge loss, and lowered morale, can incur incidental costs as well. So organizations take an average of 42 days to fill open positions, and that's just the average. During that time, organizations dedicate significant time and resources to searching for new employees, an unavoidable opportunity cost that comes with asking HR and other departments to recruit, screen, and interview candidates. When an employee leaves, their responsibilities are absorbed to an extent by the employees around them that they left behind, adding additional work to their already lengthy to-do lists. However, when you're short-staffed, there will always be work that doesn't get done. So why hire persons with disabilities? Did you know that there are about 1.3 billion people globally who live with some form of disability? That's 17% of the world's population, making people with disabilities the largest minority group. Up to 80% of disabilities are acquired between the working ages of 18 and 64, but only 50% of these people will get hired. Companies that hire people with disabilities to grow their talent pool and increase team diversity give them a considerable advantage to their competitors. People with disabilities bring a unique perspective to any team. They come with perseverance, innovation, endurance, and dedication. Their maturity about them that comes with acceptance, and they know how to improvise. Whatever their disability, they've gone through far more than the average person, and they've learned to adapt. So disability, the term disability, it's an umbrella that covers impairment, activity limitations, and participant restrictions. So an impairment is a problem in a body function or structure. An activity limitation is a difficulty encountered by an individual in executing a task or action. A participation restriction is a problem experienced by an individual in involvement in life situations. So there are 61 million adults in the United States that live with a disability. 26% of adults in the United States have some type of disability. That's 1 in 4. So breaking down disabilities by the numbers, percentages of adults with functional disability types, 13.7 have a mobility issue. That is serious difficulty walking or climbing stairs. I have that trouble, did some physical therapy for it, but it affects a lot of people. Then the second one, coming in at 10.8, is cognition. That is serious difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decisions. That could be like ADHD. Some kids, a lot of kids get diagnosed with that, and they've even been able to diagnose it in adults as well. 6.8 individuals have trouble with independent living. That's difficulty doing errands alone. Then there's individuals with hearing impairments, deafness, or serious difficulty hearing. During the pandemic, as people were wearing face coverings, we found lots of people that didn't know that they'd been reading lips for a really long time. 4.6% of individuals have problems with their vision, blindness, or serious difficulty seeing. And as we all age, we all suffer from that. And 3.7% of adults have problems with self-care, difficulty dressing or bathing, or adults with disabilities. So what's the #1 disability in the world? Well, that's changes from time to time. And so most recently, what I found was depression. So worldwide, the most common disability in people under the age of 60 is depression, followed by hearing and visual problems. What are the leading causes of a disability? Well, in the United States, pain, depression, and anxiety are among the most common changes of years lived with disability, or most often causes of years lived with disability. So what illnesses can be considered a disability? If they affect one or more major life activities, special senses and speech, such as impaired hearing, sight, or speech, respiratory illness, such as asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, cystic fibrosis, cardiovascular illness, such as arrhythmia, congenital heart disease, and heart failure, as well as digestive system problems, such as bowel or liver disease. So we are all at risk of having a disability at some point in our life. About 12% of people with disabilities said that they have one or more disabilities. So let's think of some famous people that have disabilities that we're probably pretty familiar with. Stephen Hawking is a theoretical physicist. His achievements include, he's considered the greatest scientist of the 20th century. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009. And yet his disability is motor neuron disease, almost completely paralyzed. If you haven't seen the movie that was made about him, I highly recommend it. Tanny Gray Thompson is a sports star and disability campaigner. Her achievements are in the Paralympics and World Championship. She's a World Championship gold medalist. She's the holder of 30 world records. She was born with spina bifida. Richard Branson, an entrepreneur, or I guess it's Sir Richard Branson. He's an entrepreneur and CEO. His achievements, he's a self-made billionaire, founder of the Virgin Group, and he suffers from dyslexia, or is a person with dyslexia. He left school at age 16, particularly due to his learning disability. So Stevie Wonder, everybody loves Stevie Wonder. Musician, singer, songwriter, 30+ US top 10 hits, won 24 Grammys, the youngest solo artist to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he was born blind, also a good movie. So what do we all have in common? I've shown you kind of famous people, so let's bring it back down to our level. So we all have something that we're trying to overcome, something different about ourselves that we may hide, or someone that we're trying to compensate for, something that we're trying to compensate for. Bodies and minds are fragile. As you grow older, your eyesight and hearing may worsen. You might be in a car accident, heaven forbid, be seriously injured, and lose mobility. What's important to remember is that each of us at some point in our lives will experience disability, whether we were born with a disability or not. An individual is considered to have a disability if the person has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, has a record of such an impairment, or is regarded as having such an impairment. So, breaking it down by disabilities, physical impairments include disorders of the sense organs, talking, hearing, etc., motor functions and body systems such as respiratory, cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, reproductive, digestive, genitourinary, hemic, lymphatic, skin, neurological, and endocrine systems. Mental impairments, this is what I'm most familiar with. They include most mental or psychological disorders, including organic brain syndrome, learning disabilities, and mental or emotional illness. So a disability substantially limits one or more major life activities. So what is a major life activity? Well, this includes, but is not limited to, caring for oneself, performing manual tasks, seeing, hearing, eating, sleeping, walking, standing, lifting, bending, breathing, learning, reading, concentrating, thinking, communicating, and working. And I'll tell you, as somebody who is aging, I seem to have more and more problems with some of these things. Severity and duration. So the severity and duration of an impairment determines whether it substantially limits a major life activity. Impairment must last for several months and significantly restrict a major life activity. But an impairment that is episodic or in remission is still a disability if it would substantially limit a major life activity when active. Similarly, an impairment is still regarded as a disability, even if the individual uses medication, equipment, learned adaptive behavior, or other mitigating measures to lessen the effects of the impairment. Employers are required to focus on the essential functions of a job to ensure individuals with disabilities will not be disqualified simply because of an inability to perform marginal or incidental job functions. If the individual is qualified to perform essential job functions, except for limitations caused by a disability, the employer must consider whether the individual could perform these essential job functions with a reasonable accommodation. So reasonable accommodation, what's all of that? It sounds expensive. Well, it's not. Making existing facilities readily accessible to and usable by persons with disabilities, restructuring jobs to allow employees with disabilities to remove non-essential job functions from their job duties, allowing part-time or modified work schedules. Job sharing is something that can happen. Providing equipment or devices that help overcome the disability, adjusting or modifying examinations, training materials, and policies, providing qualified readers or interpreters, reassigning to a vacant position. So an employer is not required to make an accommodation if it would impose an undue hardship on the operation of the employer's business. Well, what's an undue hardship? An undue hardship refers to only the financial difficulties, not only the financial difficulties, but to reasonable accommodations that are unduly extensive, substantial, or disruptive, or those that would alter fundamentally the nature or operation of the business. So if you have questions about that, please reach out to VR, but also contact the Department of Justice and your legal counsel to evaluate the specific situation. So some accommodations could be a bigger computer screen. Voice to text software is required to hire a person that's partially sighted. Deaf employees don't need anything more than a standard workstation. They can communicate internally and externally via chat and email. An employee who uses a wheelchair might require a desk that can be set higher or lower and a bit more space around them. But everybody kind of likes the desks that you can, raise and lift, especially since we've been working from home. So I want to go over a little bit of etiquette with you. I actually slipped even earlier in this presentation. So these are things that take practice. And even though I've been doing this for a long time, there's some things that need to be reminded. So using person first language. So instead of saying Bob is autistic or Marty is wheelchair bound, say Bob has autism or Misty uses a wheelchair. Speak directly to the person rather than through an interpreter or friend. Make eye contact with the person regardless of the disability. Ask before you help. The person that will request assistance when they need it. Treat people with disabilities just as you would anyone else. Focus on abilities, what a person can do rather than what a person cannot do. Respect the person's independence. Allow them to do what they are able to do. This includes making decisions. Respect the person's privacy. Some individuals may not be comfortable disclosing their disability. Don't assume the person's needs or abilities. Don't stereotype the individual in light of their disability. A disability does not define the person. Don't refer to the person as special needs, handicapped, suffering, or a hero. So some ability-specific tips. The majority of individuals don't have a cognitive disorder, but rather a delay in processing speech. And this actually also happens as we age. My mother, as she was aging, started to have a processing delay. So we want to listen patiently. We want to use clear language and speak slowly. We want to give time to process information. Work in a quiet environment where it's easier to hear. Ask the person to repeat what they said, slower, louder, things like that. And ask the person to write or type what they said if you can't understand them. So the things you don't want to do is finish a person's sentences. I had a friend who did that and it was very aggravating. You don't want to rush the person. You don't want to pretend to understand something. So for people that use wheelchairs and mobility devices, the things you want to do is respect their personal property. Think of that wheelchair or that device as an extension of them. You want to speak to them at eye level. You want to remain aware of their limiting reach. You also want to keep commonly used paths clear of obstructions like trash cans, chairs, boxes. You don't want to lean on somebody's wheelchair. That's like leaning on them. You certainly don't want to hang something on their chair or even push their chair unless you've asked them first. Individuals with hearing impairments, the things you want to do is use eye contact. Speak to the person, not to the interpreter. Speak in a normal tone unless asked to do otherwise. Get their attention by tapping them on the shoulder, flashing the lights, or waving your hand. Oops. Individuals with hearing impairments may use a telecommunications device for the deaf, a TDD. When communicating, say, go ahead, to signal to the other person that they may begin speaking. So vision impairments. The things you want to do is introduce yourself and others who are present. Identify your role. I'm the recruiter, I'm the counselor, I'm the job search person. Notify the person if you're walking to another area or ending the conversation. Offer the person your arm when walking. Give clear and concise directions. Always ask to pet someone's service animal. Service animals are not just pets, but working assistants. And the things you don't want to do is just grab somebody's arm. It could cause them to lose their balance. And don't make noises at the service animal. So now getting into what my primary function is vocational rehabilitation. We are the state's principal authority on vocational rehabilitation of Texans with disabilities. We help individuals with disabilities obtain, maintain, and advance in employment to lead more independent lives. So what kind of services do we provide? Well, we provide vocational counseling and guidance, referrals for hearing, vision, and other examinations. So if you've got an employee that you think is starting to have hearing problems and you might refer them to us, or if they're starting to have vision problems that's affecting their ability to do their job, please refer them to us. Assistance with medical appointments and treatment, rehabilitation devices, including hearing aids, which can be very expensive and insurance usually doesn't cover a fraction of, wheelchairs, artificial limbs, and braces, therapy to address a disability, including occupational or speech therapy, and applied behavioral analysis. I myself had to do physical therapy, and I tell you, the copays can just kill you. So we can help with that. Physical restoration services, medical, psychological, and vocational assessments, assistance with college, education, and trade certifications, on-the-job training, training in workplace and employer expectations, vocational adjustment training, rehabilitation teacher services to help you learn Braille, orientation and mobility, and home and health management skills if you're blind or have a visual impairment, supported employment, job matching, and job placement. So those are just some of the things vocational rehabilitation can help with. The Texas Workforce Solutions has business services. Vocational Rehabilitation Services provides diverse solutions and resources to Texas businesses through outreach, consultation, and technical assistance to assist with the recruitment and retention of qualified candidates. Again, it's really important that you understand that if you come to Voc Rehab, we're going to send you qualified applicants. So the business services that we provide, we can recruit qualified applicants with disabilities. We can conduct worksite assessments, job analysis for job candidates, including assistive technology recommendations. So that's real important. A lot of times, if somebody doesn't know what they need, if you ask an individual, what accommodations do you need? The individual doesn't know. Well, they probably need our services to help them know what accommodations they need. We're the experts in that, and we can help. So we can provide job retention services to assist employers with retaining an employee with a disability, which may include worksite assessments, assistive technology, and recommendations. I think I just read that twice, probably for emphasis because that's really important. Provide information and referral about tax incentives. So yes, there are work incentive tax credits, and if you don't know about those for hiring people with disabilities, we certainly can help you with that. We can help provide disability awareness and sensitivity presentations and information for your current employees. So if you're bringing in a new employee that has a disability, you want to prepare your existing employees sometimes for working with that individual with a disability. Some of those do's and don'ts. We can provide referrals to Workforce Solution Services. We can consult on development of customized training programs and arrange on-the-job training as needed to support employers that the vocational rehabilitation customer that hire the vocational rehabilitation customer. So sometimes it does take longer to train somebody. That could be with or without a disability. Sometimes people don't tell you, it's going to be hard to train, and Voc Rehab can help with that. So we can partner with employers and local workforce development boards and contractors to develop work-based learning opportunities for VR customers. So how to contact us? Well, you can call our call center. They're open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. You can look up the office that's closest to you by going to twc.texas.gov/VR near me. We have an office locator, vr.office.locator at twc.texas.gov. And so you can also refer people to our online portal. This is fairly new. We've got a QR code, and people just scan the QR code. They can leave their name, address, phone number, and then somebody from the call center will call them to get the rest of their information to begin the process of applying for our services. That's not the application, but just to start the process. And then my information, you can always reach out to me. My name's Giovanne, and I'm the Community Outreach and Awareness Specialist. We also have 2 business service coordinators. My phone number is 512-756-3908. That's my work cell. And you can always drop me an email, giovanni.turincio@twc.texas.gov. So if you need any more information about vocational rehabilitation, how we can help you with your job retention, how we can help you with recruiting, how we can help you with people that you have currently working for you that may have acquired a disability, that's what we're here to help with. So now I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Yeah, we are taking questions in the Q&A function here on Zoom. I have one for you. I actually have a comment and a question.
Okay.
The comment that I have is that I think that when we look at the situation that we're in today, particularly with long COVID, can you address? I know long COVID is considered to be a disability by ADA now. Can you address how your organization would work with that?
So we address long COVID as the symptoms, because there's not right now a test for long COVID. So the way that the doctors determine that somebody has long COVID is the length of the symptoms that they have afterwards. And then they address each symptom, each one. Most commonly is brain fog. But some people have really some major issues. They're wearing oxygen to help. They've suffered some damage to their heart or their lungs. There's all sorts of things that people are affected with. And so people a lot of times are needing help getting back to work, even if they haven't been hospitalized. And so it's really important for people to apply for our services. We can request the medical records. I was instrumental in getting our speaker in long COVID from Scott and White. And Scott and White has got a long COVID clinic. And so we're going to have presenters in our other weeks that talk about assistive technology and that focus specifically on long COVID.
Okay, great. Excellent. Brian, do we have any questions there in chat? I just brought up the flyer here and it's not letting me see chat anymore.
Not so far, but we encourage everyone to put them in there.
All right, great. Well, let me take this opportunity, Giovanni, to thank you for coming out today. Again, I know you've done one of these for us before, and we're so very grateful for your expertise and the information you provided today. We do have 4 seminars. This is our 4th year doing this, and we have 4 seminars each month, unless we have five Thursdays in a month. If we did one year, we had 5 seminars, webinars, that is. So the next one is October 13th at 9 a.m. And we put the link in the chat function for you to register for those. That's going to be Michelle Zumsky from Texas Workforce Commission. She's going to be talking about how you can get different technologies to make physical accommodations. And that was one thing that really stuck out to me when I started. I think everybody thinks about physical accommodations as being expensive. And I think the average cost is something like less than $200. And I mean, raising a desk can be done with 4 little bricks, I mean, it doesn't have to be that expensive an ordeal to help someone have a better work experience. And then we've got guidance on long COVID, speaking of that, with Dr. Teresa McNeil from Baylor Scott and White Health. She's going to be talking about long COVID and how we deal with it as employers in the workplace. And then the final week, we're going to be spotlighting, I'm waiting for a final confirmation on this, but we're going to be spotlighting 2 young entrepreneurs with Down syndrome and a business that they built into a nationwide store, a series of nationwide stores. And so as soon as I get final confirmation on that, we'll announce who that is. But we'll be talking about entrepreneurship for disabled persons. So the first 3 weeks is pretty much focused on employers. Week 4 is going to be focused in on everybody, including people that are employees, job candidates, job seekers, and so on. Getting a job at an employer is not always the best solution. And there are tons of opportunities out there for people with disabilities to work and build businesses for themselves and assistance to do that, right? So again, thank you, Giovanni, for participating this week. We'll be doing this again next week at 9 a.m. I'm not seeing, let me see, we got one just popped up here in Q&A. And okay, that was from Leslie. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. That was for you, Giovanni. Thanking you for doing the presentation from Leslie. Always a pleasure to hear from her. And so with that, we'll close out for today. I want to thank Tracy, our American Sign Language interpreter. She'll be with us again next week. And Brian Hernandez, our chief storyteller for Workforce Solutions, Rural Capital Area. Until next week, I'm Carl Braun. Thank you so much, and we'll see you then. Have a great day.
Thank you.